She stood outside room 405 with jollof rice still warm in her hands, a gift she saved 3 months to buy, and a smile she'd practiced in the airport bathroom. She didn't know that in exactly 47 seconds, she would record a video that would destroy her husband's career, expose her best friend's betrayal, and change 3 lives forever. But here's what shocks people most about this story. It's not what she found behind that door. It's not even the betrayal itself. It's what she did in the 72 hours that followed. A series of decisions so calculated, so strategic, and so devastatingly effective that it would become a masterclass in how to leave a cheater with your dignity intact and his world in ruins. This is the story of Camsy, a Nigerian woman who learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't anger, isn't violence, isn't screaming. It's evidence, patience, and the quiet power of a woman who finally chose herself. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Let me tell you about Camsy before the betrayal, before the hotel room, before the recording, before she became the woman who walked away. Because to understand why this story matters, you need to understand who she was. 3 days before everything fell apart, Camsy Okafor woke up at 5:30 a.m. in their modest but warm 2-bedroom apartment in Lekki, Lagos. Not because her alarm rang. Not because her husband asked, but because this is what she'd done every single morning for 5 years, since the day Chike Okafor placed that gold band on her finger and promised to love her through everything. She moved through her kitchen like a dancer who'd memorized every step. The wooden spoon that fit perfectly in her right hand. The exact amount of pepper that made Chike's jollof rice taste like home. The way she tilted the pot just slightly to the left when stirring to avoid splashing. These weren't just cooking habits. They were love languages written in steam and spice. See, Camsy wasn't just a good wife. She was the kind of wife that made other women in her church group feel simultaneously inspired and inadequate. The one who meal prepped on Sundays, ironed his work shirts with creases so sharp they could cut paper, remembered his mother's birthday before he did, and still managed to send him encouragement texts during his work meetings. "You're going to do amazing today, my love. They're lucky to have you in that room. Don't forget to eat lunch. I packed extra because I know you'll share with Tund. Can't wait to hear how your presentation went. You're the smartest man I know." Her friends used to tease her about it. "Camsy, you love this man too much," her best friend Nena would say, shaking her head with a mix of admiration and concern. "What if he takes you for granted?" And Camsy would smile that patient smile she'd perfected and reply, "When you marry someone, you give them the best parts of yourself. That's what marriage is." She believed that. God, she believed that with everything in her. Her grandmother had taught her this, that a good wife was the backbone of her home, that a strong marriage was built on sacrifice, that if you loved hard enough, consistently enough, completely enough, you could build something unbreakable. So she loved Chike with her whole heart. When he got promoted to senior analyst at his firm, she threw him a surprise party at their apartment, cooking for 40 people by herself. When he complained about stress, she'd massage his shoulders for an hour while he scrolled through his phone, barely acknowledging her hands on him. When his mother criticized her cooking, her hair, her inability to get pregnant yet, Camsy swallowed the pain and smiled wider, trying harder to please a woman who would never be pleased. And Chike accepted all of it like a man accepts oxygen. Necessary, expected, barely noticed until it's gone. But it wasn't always like this. In the beginning, he used to look at her like she was magic. He'd pull her close while she cooked and whisper, "How did I get so lucky?" He'd call her during lunch breaks just to hear her voice. He'd bring her flowers on random Tuesdays with notes that said, "Because you deserve beauty as beautiful as you." He'd hold her face between his palms and promise, "I'm going to spend every day of my life making sure you never regret choosing me." Those days felt like a dream now. Distant, fading, like something she'd imagined. Because somewhere between year 2 and year 5, Chike changed. The calls stopped. The flowers died. The promises evaporated like morning mist. And Camsy told herself what so many women tell themselves when love starts to feel one-sided. He's just stressed. He's just focused on his career. He's just tired. He's just. She made excuses the way she made his breakfast. Automatically, routinely, without questioning if it was still nourishing either of them. Here's the thing about betrayal that nobody tells you. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets and warning signs. It arrives in tiny moments you convince yourself don't mean anything. Like the way Chaik started tilting his phone away whenever a message arrived. Just a slight angle, barely noticeable, but enough to keep her from seeing the screen. "Who's texting?" she'd ask casually, trying to keep her voice light. "Just work," he'd say, and she'd believe him because what else could she do? Accuse him. Demand to see. That wasn't who she was. Or the way conversations that used to flow like rivers now stumbled and stuttered like broken faucets. "How was your day?" she'd ask. "Fine," he'd reply, eyes on his phone. "Did the presentation go well?" "Yeah. Your mom called. She wants to know if we're coming for Sunday lunch." "Maybe." One-word answers. The language of a man whose mind was already somewhere else with someone else. Or, and this is the one that should have told her everything, the way, "I love you," transformed from something he said while looking into her eyes to something he muttered while walking past her to the bathroom. "I love you. Love you too." Automatic. Passionless. Obligatory. Like thanking a waiter who refilled your water glass. The physical distance grew too. They used to sleep tangled together. His arm around her waist, her head on his chest, falling asleep to the rhythm of each other's breathing. Now he slept on his edge of the bed, facing the wall. His body language screaming, "Keep away," even in unconsciousness. When she tried to initiate intimacy, something that used to come naturally to them, he'd say he was tired, had an early meeting, wasn't feeling well. Once is understandable. Twice is concerning. 17 times in 3 months is a message. But Camsy kept trying. She bought new lingerie he barely glanced at. She cooked his favorite meals he ate while scrolling through his phone. She suggested they go on dates he was always too busy for. She asked if something was wrong, he always insisted everything was fine. And the cruelest part. Sometimes, just often enough to keep her hoping, he'd have good days. Days where he'd kiss her forehead in the morning. Days where he'd laugh at her jokes. Days where he'd pull her close and say, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." And those days were the most dangerous of all. Because they convinced her she was imagining the distance. That she was being paranoid. That if she just loved harder, tried more, gave completely, everything would go back to how it was. Trauma bonding disguised as hope. Her friend Nena saw it clearly. They were having lunch one afternoon at a small restaurant in Victoria Island when Camsy mentioned, almost casually, that Chaik had another business trip coming up. Another one. Nena's eyebrows shot up. "That's the 4th trip this month. It's a big promotion opportunity," Camsy explained, stirring her drink. "He's working really hard." "Or hardly working," Nena muttered. "What's that supposed to mean?" Nena put down her fork and looked at her friend with the kind of honesty that only comes from real love. "Camsy, when was the last time Chaik looked at you the way a man looks at a woman he's in love with?" The question landed like a slap. He's just stressed, Nena. Career pressure, you know how it is." "I know how it is when a man is stressed about work. This isn't that. This is a man whose attention is somewhere else." "You think he's cheating?" Camsy's voice dropped to a whisper. "I think you know he's cheating. You're just not ready to admit it yet." Camsy felt her chest tighten. "He would never do that to me. I've given him everything." "That's exactly why he might," Nena said softly. "Some men don't value what they have until it's gone." Camsy didn't want to believe it. Couldn't believe it. So she pushed the thought away, buried it deep, and did what she always did when fear crept in. She tried harder. And when Chaik announced his next trip to Abuja for a career-changing promotion meeting, she saw it not as a red flag but as an opportunity. An opportunity to remind him why he married her. An opportunity to show up for him the way she always had. An opportunity to prove Nena wrong. "Camsy, this promotion will change our life," Chaik had said, more animated than he'd been in months. "This is everything I've been working toward. 3 days in Abuja, meeting with the board, final presentations. If this goes well, we're talking 6-figure raise, benefits, recognition, everything." He'd grabbed her hands, the first time he'd touched her intentionally in weeks. "I need you to pray for me. I need everything to go perfectly." And she'd held his hands tight and promised, "It will. You're brilliant, hardworking, dedicated." They'd be fools not to see it. She meant every word. Even as something in her gut whispered that something wasn't right. Even as Nena's words echoed in her mind. Even as she noticed he'd bought new clothes for the trip, expensive ones he'd never mentioned to her. She ignored the whispers, silenced the doubts, and started planning. Now, before I tell you what Camsy decided to do, I need you to understand something about her psychology in this moment. Because most people watching this right now are screaming at their screens. "Girl, don't do it. Stay home. Your gut is telling you something." But Camsy wasn't operating from gut instinct anymore. She was operating from hope. Desperate, clinging, last-chance hope. The kind of hope that makes you ignore every red flag because acknowledging them means acknowledging that the life you built might be built on lies. So 2 days before Chike's trip, Camsy made a decision. She would surprise him in Abuja. Not to spy. Not to catch him. But to support him, to remind him of what they had, to be the wife she'd always been. Thoughtful, loving, present. She told no one. Not Nena, who would have tried to talk her out of it. Not her mother, who would have asked too many questions. Not even Chike, because surprises, she thought, were romantic. God, the things we tell ourselves. She started planning with the same meticulous attention she gave to everything she did for him. First, the food. She spent an entire afternoon cooking his favorite meal. Jollof rice made the way his grandmother taught her, with a perfect balance of spice and sweetness that made him close his eyes in satisfaction on their second date. She roasted a whole chicken, peppered and seasoned exactly how he liked it, so tender the meat fell off the bone. She packed everything in airtight containers, wrapping them in foil to keep them warm during the journey. While the rice simmered, she thought about the first time she'd made this for him after their wedding. He'd eaten 2 full plates and still reached for more, laughing. "Ah, Camsy, you want to kill me with this sweetness?" Those were the days when food was love language and love language was enough. Second, the gift. For 3 months, Camsy had been saving money. Not from the joint account, Chike monitored that. But from the small amount she made from her part-time work as a freelance graphic designer. 5,000 naira here. 1,000 there. Sometimes just 2,000. Hidden in an envelope at the back of her underwear drawer. Money Chike didn't know existed. Why? Because he'd mentioned months ago. A silver wristwatch with a blue face he'd seen in a store window. "That watch is beautiful," he'd said wistfully. "But we can't afford luxuries right now. Maybe when the promotion comes through." She'd remembered. Because that's what love did. It remembered the small wishes, the passing comments, the dreams mentioned only once. The watch cost 485,000 naira. Nearly everything she'd saved. But when she held the box in her hands at the store, watching the light catch the blue face of the watch, imagining his face when he opened it, the cost didn't matter. "He'll love this," the saleswoman had said, smiling. "I know," Camsy had replied, her heart full. She wrapped it carefully in silver paper, placed it in a gift bag with tissue paper, and practiced the moment in her mind. His face lighting up. His arms pulling her close. His voice saying, "You didn't have to do this." And her replying, "I wanted to. You deserve it." Third, the logistics. She booked a flight for the evening before his big meeting, late enough that he'd be settled in his hotel, early enough to surprise him with breakfast the next morning. She checked which hotel he was staying at, the Transcorp Hilton he'd mentioned casually. She booked a room on the same floor without telling him, using her freelance income. She imagined knocking on his door, seeing his shocked face, his delighted smile, the way he'd pull her inside and hold her. She packed a simple dress. Nothing too fancy, she wanted to look like herself, approachable, warm, his Camsy. The day before her flight, she stood in their bedroom holding the gift bag and the food containers, and something in her chest tightened. A feeling she couldn't name. A whisper she didn't want to hear. What if he's not alone? She pushed the thought away violently. Stop being paranoid, she whispered to herself. Nena put these ideas in your head. Chike loves you. He's your husband. He would never. She didn't finish the sentence. Couldn't finish it. Because finishing it meant considering possibilities that would shatter her. So she focused on the positive. The surprise. Joy. The reconnection. This trip, she told herself, would remind them both why they fell in love. This trip would save their marriage. This trip would be the turning point. She had no idea she was right, just not in the way she imagined. The morning of her flight, she took one last look around their apartment. Everything was clean, organized, ready for their return. She'd even changed the bedsheets to the ones Chike liked, imagining them coming home together, renewed, reconnected, reborn. At the airport, a woman sitting next to her in the waiting area noticed her smile. That practiced, hopeful, desperate smile. You look happy, my dear, the woman said warmly. Going somewhere special? Yes, Camsy replied, clutching her bags tighter. I'm surprising my husband. He has a big work meeting and I want to support him. Oh, that's so sweet, the woman beamed. He's a lucky man. May your surprise be a blessed one. Amen, Camsy whispered. If only she'd known to pray for something else entirely. On the plane, she sat by the window and watched clouds drift past like cotton. Her mind filled with images. Chike opening the door. His eyes widening in shock and delight. Him pulling her into his arms, spinning her around. Him opening the gift. His face softening with gratitude. Him tasting the jollof, closing his eyes in pleasure. Him whispering against her hair. This is why I married you. This is why I'll never let you go. She could see it all so clearly. So perfectly. So completely wrong. The plane landed in Abuja at 8:47 p.m. The sun had already set, and the city lights glittered below like promises. She took a taxi straight to the Transcorp Hilton, clutching her bags the entire ride, nervous energy making her hands shake slightly. Madam, your husband go shoko, the taxi driver joked as he helped her with her bags. This kind surprise, no better thing. She smiled. That's the plan. The hotel lobby was exactly as she imagined. Sophisticated, quiet, with soft lighting and gentle music playing from hidden speakers. She checked in quickly, got her room key, and stood in the elevator watching the numbers climb. 3rd floor. 4th floor. Floor. Her heart beat faster with each ding. The hallway stretched before her, carpeted and silent, room numbers glowing softly on each door. 403, 404. 405. His room. She stopped walking. For just a moment that feeling returned. The tightness in her chest, the whisper in her gut, the fear she'd been pushing down for weeks. She stood there in that hallway, bags in hand, and made a choice. Trust or fear. Hope or doubt. Love or self-protection. She chose love. She chose hope. She chose trust. She raised her hand toward the door, practicing her smile one more time. Her heart full of everything she was about to give him. She didn't know that in 47 seconds, her entire world would shatter. But for now, for these last precious seconds, she was still Camsy the believer. Camsy the lover. Camsy the wife who thought surprise gestures could save marriages. Her hand moved closer to the door. And then she heard it. A woman's laugh. Let's slow down this moment. Because this exact second, is when Camsy's brain began to fracture into two competing realities. Reality 1. Everything is fine. It's the TV. It's room service. It's a colleague. It's anything except what your gut is screaming it might be. Reality 2. You know exactly what this is. You've known for months. You just didn't want to see it. The laugh came again. Like, comfortable, intimate. Not the laugh of a colleague. Not the laugh of a stranger. The laugh of a woman who felt safe enough to be playful. Camsy's smile didn't just fade. It crumbled piece by piece like a sandcastle touched by waves. She whispered to herself, "It's the TV. He's watching something. That's all." But even as she said it, she knew she was lying. Because she recognized the song playing in the background. Soft Afrobeats. A love song. The same one Chaik used to play when they cooked dinner together in their early days. When he'd come up behind her at the stove and wrap his arms around her waist. "This song reminds me of you," he'd say, swaying with her. Now that song was playing in a hotel room with another woman's laughter woven through it. Camsy's fingers tightened around the handle of her food bag. The bag that held rice she'd cooked with love. The bag that suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She took one step closer to the door. Not to knock. Just to listen. Just to prove herself wrong. Just to confirm that her paranoia was creating monsters in the shadows. She pressed her ear gently against the door, her breath shallow, her heart hammering. "Please be nothing. Please be nothing. Please be nothing." The woman's voice came through, muffled but clear enough. "Stop it, you're making me blush." Another giggle. The sound of sheets rustling. Movement. Intimacy. Camsy felt her stomach drop like an elevator with cut cables. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Her vision blurred at the edges. Her legs threatened to give out. She pressed both palms flat against the door to steady herself. "This can't be real. This can't be happening. This can't be my husband." But then Chaik's voice, unmistakable, undeniable, devastating, came through the door. "Come here, baby. You're not going anywhere." Baby. That word. That one word. He used to call her that. In the beginning, when everything was new and perfect and uncomplicated. He'd wake her up with, "Good morning, baby." And end phone calls with, "Love you, baby." Then it stopped. She'd noticed, of course, but told herself it didn't mean anything. People change how they talk. Terms of endearment fade. It's normal. Except it wasn't normal. He hadn't stopped using the word. He just started using it with someone else. Camsy pulled her ear away from the door and stared at it like it had personally betrayed her. Her hands were shaking now. Full tremors she couldn't control. The gift bag slipped from her fingers and hit the carpet with a soft thud. She bent down to pick it up, and that's when she saw them. Her hands. The same hands that had cooked his meals, ironed his shirts, held him when he was stressed, massaged his shoulders, wiped his tears when his father died, built a home for him. And they were shaking because those same hands were about to open a door that would confirm her worst nightmare. Part of her wanted to run. Leave the food. Leave the gift. Leave the hotel. Leave Abuja. Leave the truth. Ignorance, after all, was a kind of peace. But a stronger part, a part she didn't know she had, whispered something different. "You need to know. You need to see. You need the truth no matter how much it hurts." She stood up slowly, forcing her legs to support her weight. She picked up the gift bag. She adjusted the food containers. She wiped her eyes even though tears hadn't fallen yet. And she made a decision that would change everything. She wouldn't knock. She wouldn't run. She would listen. She would watch. She would gather evidence. She would protect herself. Because somehow, in that moment of absolute devastation, clarity cut through the pain like lightning. "If this is what I think it is, I need proof. Not for him. For me. For the divorce. For my future. For my freedom." So she stayed. She pressed her ear back against the door, pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, and opened her voice recorder. Just in case. Just for protection. Just for truth. The sounds from inside continued. More laughter. Kissing sounds, wet, unmistakable. The creak of bed springs. Clothes rustling. Whispered words she couldn't make out fully. Each sound was a knife to her chest, but she didn't move. She was collecting evidence now. And then, she heard the words that would echo in her mind for the rest of her life. Chaik's voice, clear and happy and completely unguarded. "Next week, we're leaving Nigeria together. I've got everything arranged. Flights, apartment, new start. Just you and me." Camsy's eyes flew open wide. Leaving Nigeria. Together. The woman responded. And this is when Camsy's world didn't just crack, it exploded. What about your wife? Silence. Long enough that Camsy held her breath. Long enough that she prayed he'd say something, anything that would make this okay. Long enough that she knew, with absolute certainty, that he wouldn't. And then Chike laughed. He laughed. Don't worry about Camsy, he said, his voice dripping with dismissal. I'll dump her very soon. She's too soft to fight back. She'll cry for a week and then move on. She always does what I tell her to. That sentence, those exact words, hit Camsy with the force of a physical blow. She stumbled backward, her back hitting the opposite wall of the hallway. The food bag slipped from her hand and hit the floor. The containers inside made a muffled sound. She didn't notice. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process. The man she'd loved for 5 years, the man she'd sacrificed for, cooked for, prayed for, built her entire adult life around, just referred to her as an inconvenience he'd dispose of like expired milk. She's too soft to fight back. Was that how he saw her? Years of devotion reduced to weakness. Years of love interpreted as stupidity. Years of trying reduced to something he could laugh about with another woman. Camsy slid down the wall until she was sitting on the hallway carpet, her legs unable to hold her anymore. She covered her mouth with both hands to keep from making a sound. Tears finally came, silent, hot, unstoppable. They rolled down her cheeks and dripped onto her dress, darkening the fabric. Inside the room, the conversation continued. The woman, whoever she was, said something Camsy couldn't hear clearly. Chike responded. I should have chosen you from the beginning. With you I feel alive. With her I just feel obligated. Obligated. Their entire marriage. 5 years of her life. Reduced to obligation. Camsy's tears stopped suddenly. Something inside her shifted. A fundamental transformation that happens when pain becomes so absolute it burns away everything except clarity. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. She stood up slowly, her legs steadier now. She picked up the food bag and looked at it, really looked at it. Jollof rice made with love for a man who saw her as an obligation. Roasted chicken prepared with care for a man who was planning to abandon her. She whispered, You don't deserve this. You don't deserve anything I've given you. She placed the food bag against the wall. She reached for her phone again. Not to call anyone, not to text, not to scream. To record. If he was going to betray her, she'd make sure the truth was undeniable. If he was going to lie, she'd have evidence. If he was going to destroy her, she'd make sure he understood exactly what he'd lost. She opened her camera app, set it to video, and made a decision that would change all of their lives. She would get the evidence she needed. Then she would walk away. Not because she was too soft to fight, but because she was strong enough to leave. Here's what you need to understand about this next moment. Camsy wasn't thinking about consequences. She wasn't thinking about confrontation. She wasn't even thinking about her own safety. She was operating on pure instinct, the instinct of a woman who needed to see the truth with her own eyes. Because hearing betrayal and seeing betrayal are 2 different types of pain. One you can dismiss. The other you can never unsee. Her hand moved to the door handle. Her breath caught in her throat. Her fingers closed around the cold metal. And to her shock, to her absolute shock, when she pushed down gently, the door wasn't locked. It opened. Silently. Smoothly. Like it had been waiting for her. Because of course it wasn't locked. Why would they lock it? They thought they were safe. They thought they were invisible. They thought Camsy was at home in Lagos. Cooking, cleaning, waiting, being soft. The door opened just a crack, maybe 2 inches. Enough for a thin slice of light to escape into the hallway. Enough for Camsy to see inside. And what she saw destroyed her in ways she didn't know a person could be destroyed. The room was bathed in soft yellow light from the bedside lamps. The curtains were drawn. Room service trays sat on the table. Wine glasses, half-eaten food, the remnants of an intimate dinner. And on the bed, her husband. The man who'd stood before God and her family and promised to forsake all others. He was lying on his back, relaxed, comfortable, wearing nothing but boxer shorts. And on top of him, her head on his chest, her hand tracing patterns on his skin, her legs tangled with his, was a woman. Camsy's vision tunneled. Her breathing stopped completely. She felt like she was watching this through water. Distant, distorted, unreal. The woman lifted her head, laughing at something Chike said. And Camsy's heart didn't just break. It shattered into pieces so small they could never be put back together. 'Cause she knew that face. She knew that laugh. She knew that woman. It was Amora. Amora Nwosu. Not a stranger. Not a co-worker. Not some random woman he'd met on a business trip. Amora. Her old friend from university. The woman she'd studied with, laughed with, cried with. The woman she'd lent money to when Amora couldn't afford her final year fees. The woman she'd invited to their wedding. The woman she'd welcomed into their home, fed at their table, trusted with her secrets. The woman who'd sat in Camsy's living room 3 months ago, sipping tea Camsy made, and said with a concerned face, "Camsy, you give Chike too much. Make sure he appreciates you." All while she was sleeping with him. All while she was planning a future with him. All while she was helping him plan to leave his wife. Camsy's hand flew to her mouth to keep from screaming, or crying, or vomiting. She wasn't sure which would come first. Inside the room, Amora shifted position, straddling Chike now, looking down at him with a kind of intimacy that only comes from familiarity. This wasn't their first time. This wasn't a mistake. This was an affair. Fully formed, ongoing, deliberate. Chike's hands moved up Amora's thighs, and he smiled. That same smile he used to give Camsy in their early days. "You're so beautiful," he murmured to Amora. Amora laughed, leaning down to kiss him. "You're just saying that." "I mean it," Chike insisted, his voice warm, affectionate, present in a way he hadn't been with Camsy in years. "I feel like myself when I'm with you. Like I can breathe." "What does that make Camsy?" Amora asked, and there was cruelty in her playfulness. "Your anchor that drowns you." Chike laughed. Actually laughed at that. Something like that. She's suffocating sometimes. Always doing too much, always trying too hard. With you, everything feels easy. Outside the door, Camsy felt something inside her die. The woman who believed love conquered all. The woman who thought effort mattered. The woman who measured her worth by how much she could give. That woman died in that hotel hallway. And someone new was being born. Someone harder, colder, sharper. Someone who understood that softness had been mistaken for weakness. That love had been mistaken for stupidity. That devotion had been rewarded with betrayal. Her hands stopped shaking. Her tears stopped falling. Her breathing steadied. She raised her phone, the phone she'd been holding this entire time, and she recorded. She recorded everything. Chike's face, relaxed and happy in ways he never looked at home. Amora's hands on his chest, possessive and comfortable. The way they kissed, slow, deep, familiar. The room around them. The wine glasses, the intimate setting, the evidence of hours spent together. And most importantly, she recorded the conversation. "Amora. So when exactly are you leaving her?" "Chike. Soon. Very soon. I'm thinking right after this promotion comes through. Use the money to set us up in London. Then file for divorce remotely. She won't fight it. She never fights." "Amora. Are you sure? Some women get crazy when you try to leave." "Chike. Not Camsy. She'll cry, maybe call her mother, eat ice cream for a week, but she won't fight. She's too soft. Too scared of conflict. It's one of the things that made her boring." Camsy zoomed in slightly, making sure every word was captured clearly. Making sure the video showed both their faces. Making sure no one could claim this was fake, edited, or taken out of context. This was evidence. This was truth. This was ammunition. Amora giggled again. "You're terrible. But I love it. I love that you're finally choosing yourself. Choosing us." Chike pulled her down for another kiss. Best decision I ever made. Next week we're on a plane. New country. New life. New everything. What about the promotion? Amora asked. Won't they wonder why you're suddenly leaving? I'll tell them I got a better offer abroad. They don't need to know it's not real yet. By the time they figure it out, we'll be settled in London. And Camsy? Chike shrugged. Actually shrugged like his wife of 5 years was a mild inconvenience. She'll survive. Maybe she'll finally learn to stand up for herself. Maybe some other man will appreciate all that cooking and cleaning. I'm done being her charity case. Charity case. That's what he thought she was. Her love was charity. Her devotion was pity. Her loyalty was... what? Stupidity. Camsy had recorded enough. More than enough. She had 2 minutes and 47 seconds of undeniable proof of adultery, conspiracy to commit fraud, lying about job offers, and emotional cruelty. In Nigerian divorce court, this video alone would guarantee her everything. The house, car, the savings. His reputation destroyed. His career in shambles. His future in ruins. But that wasn't why she recorded it. She recorded it because she needed to remember. She needed to remember this moment every time her heart tried to convince her to go back. Every time loneliness whispered that maybe she'd overreacted. Every time he cried and begged and promised to change. She needed this video to remind her. This is who he really is. This is what he really thinks of you. This is the truth he hides behind smiles and empty promises. She stopped recording. She stepped back from the door slowly, carefully, making sure it didn't creak. The door closed with the softest click. Barely audible. But to Camsy, it sounded like a coffin being sealed. She stood in that hallway for a long moment, phone in hand, evidence secured, tears dried, heart fundamentally altered. She looked down at the food bag she'd prepared with so much love. The jollof rice that took 3 hours to perfect. The chicken she'd roasted with care. The gift she'd saved for months to buy. And she felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even hate. Just emptiness. The kind of emptiness that comes when you realize you've been pouring yourself into a vessel with no bottom. She picked up the bags. Not because she wanted to give them to Chike anymore, but because she didn't want to leave evidence that she'd been there. Not yet. She walked down the hallway toward her own room, her footsteps quiet on the carpet. She didn't look back. She didn't cry. She didn't fall apart. She simply walked, one foot in front of the other, until she reached her door. She unlocked it, stepped inside, closed it behind her, locked it, and only then, only in the complete privacy of her own space, did she allow herself to feel. She didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She didn't call anyone. She simply slid down the door until she was sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees, and let the enormity of what she'd just witnessed wash over her. Her marriage was over. Her best friend was a traitor. Her husband was a liar. Her entire life as she knew it was built on deception. And somehow, she had to figure out what came next. But not tonight. Tonight she would sit here. She would process. She would grieve. And tomorrow she would become someone her husband had severely underestimated. Someone who wasn't too soft to fight back. Someone who would make sure the truth destroyed him the same way it destroyed her. She whispered into the empty room. You should have never called me soft, Chike. Soft things can be reshaped. And I'm about to reshape your entire world. That night, the night Camsy's world ended and her new life began, lasted approximately 8 hours. But it felt like years. She sat on that hotel room floor for she didn't know how long. Minutes. Hours. Time stopped making sense. Her phone sat beside her. The video paused on a frame that showed Chike and Amora laughing together. She'd watched it 17 times. Not because she doubted what she'd seen, but because her brain kept trying to find a different interpretation. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe. Well, there was no maybe. There was only truth. And truth was this. Her husband was in love with someone else and had been for God knows how long. Eventually, she forced herself to stand. Her legs were stiff from sitting on the floor. Her eyes were swollen even though she'd barely cried. Shock had a way of freezing tears before they could fall. She walked to the bathroom like a robot, mechanical, disconnected from her body. She looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back was almost unrecognizable. Eyes red-rimmed but dry. Face puffy but expressionless. Hair still perfect because she'd styled it carefully for the surprise. The surprise. God, the absurdity of it hit her like a wave. She'd come here to surprise him with love. He'd surprised her with devastation. She turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on her face. Once. 3 times. Until her skin felt numb. Until she couldn't tell if the water on her cheeks was from the faucet or tears that had finally broken through. She dried her face with a hotel towel. Soft, white, expensive, and noticed her hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. In its place was something else. Something colder. Something that felt almost like power. No, not power. Clarity. Absolute, undeniable clarity. She walked back to the main room and sat on the bed this time, her phone in her lap. She opened the video again. This time she didn't watch it emotionally. She watched it strategically. Who needed to see this? How should she send it? When should she send it? What would hurt him most effectively? These thoughts should have made her feel guilty. Good women don't plot revenge, right? But she didn't feel guilty. She felt focused. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. This was about making sure he didn't get to rewrite history. This was about ensuring that when he left her, the world would know exactly why. And exactly who he really was. She opened her laptop. The same laptop she'd brought to work on a surprise project for Chaik's promotion party. How pathetic that seemed now. She logged into her email. Stared at the blank composition screen. And began to type. Not a long email. Not an emotional one. Just facts. Subject. I believe you should see this before tomorrow's meeting. Body, good morning. The attached video was recorded last night at the Transcorp Hilton, room 405. I trust you will handle this matter appropriately. Okafor. No explanations. No accusations. No emotions. Just evidence. She attached the video file. Then she stared at the recipient field. Who should receive this? Option 1, just Chaik. Private humiliation. Give him a chance to explain, apologize, beg. She deleted that thought immediately. He didn't deserve privacy. He didn't deserve chances. He'd made his choice when he planned to leave her without warning. Option 2, family and friends. Public humiliation within their social circle. Tempting. But not enough. Option 3. Option 3 was perfect. She pulled up Chaik's work contacts. She had access because she'd helped him organize his email once when his laptop crashed. She typed in the email addresses. CEO of his company, HR director, his direct supervisor, the 3 board members who would be in tomorrow's promotion meeting. His entire project team, 12 people, the company's ethics committee. 17 people total. 17 people who would see the video of Chaik betraying his wife, planning to defraud the company about a fake job offer, and demonstrating a complete lack of integrity. Her cursor hovered over the send button. This was the point of no return. Once she sent this, she couldn't unsend it. Once this went out, Chaik's life would implode. His career, his reputation, his future, everything. But she didn't send it yet. She saved it as a draft. Because sending it now, at 11:47 p.m., meant it would sit in inboxes overnight, possibly unnoticed until morning. She needed perfect timing. She needed maximum impact. She set an alarm for 6 a.m. The promotion meeting started at 8 a.m., but the company always did early morning briefings at 6:30 a.m. If she sent the email at 6:32 a.m., they'd all be gathered in the conference room. They'd all check their phones. They'd all see it simultaneously. And Chaik would walk into that room expecting celebration, and instead find his entire professional life ending in real time. Perfect. She closed her laptop, placed her phone on the nightstand, changed into pajamas, the ones she'd packed thinking she'd be sharing a room with her husband. She laid down on the bed, alone, heartbroken but strangely calm. Sleep should have been impossible. But exhaustion from emotional devastation is a powerful sedative. Her eyes closed. And somewhere between grief and strategy, Camsy Okafor fell asleep. Not as the woman who'd arrived in Abuja, but as the woman who would leave it. The last thought before sleep took her completely was, "Tomorrow you'll learn what soft really means, Chike. It means I'll break you quietly." The alarm rang at exactly 6 a.m. Camsy's eyes opened immediately. Not groggily, not reluctantly, but with the sharp clarity of someone who'd been waiting for this moment. She'd slept for approximately 5 hours. Dreamless sleep. Deep sleep. The kind of sleep that comes when your emotional capacity is so depleted that even your subconscious has nothing left to process. She sat up, stretched, and looked around the hotel room. For a brief, disorienting second, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The flight. The hallway. The door. The betrayal. The video. Plan. She reached for her phone. 6:02 a.m. 30 minutes until she sent the email. 30 minutes until Chike's world imploded. She should have felt nervous. Should have felt guilty. Should have questioned whether she was doing the right thing. But she felt none of those things. She felt certain. The kind of certainty that comes when you've been pushed so far past your limits that there's no going back. She went to the bathroom and washed her face with cold water again, a ritual that seemed to ground her, to remind her she was real, this was happening, she was in control. She looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back looked different than yesterday. Older maybe. Harder definitely. But also stronger. There was steel in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She whispered to her reflection. "He thinks you're too soft to fight. Let's prove him wrong." She made herself a cup of coffee from the hotel room maker. Black, no sugar. She needed to be alert, focused, present for every moment of what was about to happen. At 6:15 a.m., she opened her laptop. The draft email was still there, waiting. She read it one more time. Subject: "I believe you should see this before today's meeting." Body: "Good morning. The attached video was recorded last night at the Transcorp Hilton, room 405. I trust you will handle this matter appropriately. Okafor." Attachment: "Evidence No. 4. 2:47 minutes. Clean. Professional. Devastating." She checked the recipient list again. CEO, HR Director, Direct Supervisor, Board Members 3. Project Team 12. Ethics Committee Chair 17 people. 17 witnesses to his destruction. At 6:28 a.m., she positioned her cursor over the Send button. 4 minutes early. She wanted to watch the clock. She wanted to be fully present for this moment. 6:29 a.m. She imagined Chike right now, probably in the shower, practicing his presentation, feeling confident, excited, completely unaware that his wife was about to destroy him. 6:30 a.m. The company's morning briefing would be starting now. 17 people gathering in the conference room, checking their phones, sipping coffee, making small talk, having no idea what was about to land in their inboxes. 6:31 a.m. Camsy's finger rested on the mouse. Her breathing was calm, her heartbeat steady. She whispered, "This is for every woman who was told she was too soft. This is for every wife who gave everything and got nothing. This is for me." 6:32 a.m. Blick. The email sent. A soft whoosh sound as it left her outbox. No fanfare. No dramatic music. Just a simple, quiet, devastating action. She watched the screen. Email sent successfully. She closed her laptop slowly, set it aside, picked up her coffee, and waited. She didn't have to wait long. At 6:34 a.m., her phone buzzed. A red receipt notification. CEO had opened the email. 6:35 a.m. HR Director had opened it. 6:36 a.m. Supervisor had opened it. 6:37 a.m. All 3 board members had opened it. 6:38 a.m. The entire project team had opened it. One by one, the read receipts came through like dominoes falling. And Camsy sat there, coffee in hand, watching the digital evidence of destruction spread through Chike's professional world. She imagined the scene. The conference room. 17 phones buzzing simultaneously. 17 people opening the email. 17 faces changing from confusion to shock. The CEO clicking on the video. The first few seconds playing. Chike's face, Amora's laugh, the hotel room. Someone saying, Is that Chike? The video continuing. The conversation about leaving Nigeria, about dumping his wife, about faking a job offer. The room going silent. Someone pausing the video on Chike's face. Zooming in, confirming. The HR director saying, We need to call security. The CEO saying, Where is he right now? And somewhere in that same building Chike, showered, dressed in his best suit, carrying his laptop full of presentations, walking toward the conference room completely unaware that he was walking toward his professional execution. Back in her hotel room, Camsy's phone buzzed again. Not a read receipt this time. A notification from her company email. She'd CC'd herself on the email, though her address was hidden. Subject. I believe you should see this before today's meeting. From to HR Director, Supervisor, Board Members. Body. Emergency meeting. Conference room A. Now. Do not allow Chike Okafor into the building until we've reviewed this fully. Security has been notified. Camsy read it twice. Then she smiled. Not a big smile. Not a happy one. But a satisfied smile. The smile of a woman who'd taken back her power. She whispered. Game over, Chike. You lose. At 7:15 a.m., Chike Okafor stepped out of a taxi in front of his company's headquarters. He was wearing his lucky navy suit, the one Camsy had bought him for their 3rd anniversary. His shoes were polished to perfection, the way Camsy always insisted they should be. His presentation was loaded on his laptop, which Camsy had helped him rehearse 3 times last week. Everything about him screamed success, confidence, a man about to get everything he wanted. He didn't know that in the past 43 minutes, 17 people had watched a video of him betraying his wife, planning to commit fraud, and demonstrating a complete lack of integrity. He didn't know that his CEO had already made the decision to fire him. He didn't know that security guards had his photo and instructions to escort him out. He didn't know anything. And that was exactly how Camsy wanted it. He walked through the lobby with a spring in his step, nodded at the receptionist, pressed the elevator button, whistled softly to himself. The elevator doors opened. He stepped inside, pressed the button for the 7th floor, checked his reflection in the elevator's mirror, adjusted his tie, smiled at himself. This was his day. The elevator dinged. 7th floor. Doors opened. He stepped out into the hallway and immediately knew something was wrong. The office was too quiet. Normally at 7:15 a.m. people were bustling, making coffee, chatting, setting up for the day. But today silence. And everyone he passed, every single person, stopped talking when they saw him, turned away, avoided eye contact. One woman he'd worked with for 3 years literally turned around and walked in the opposite direction when she spotted him. Chike frowned. Good morning, he called out cheerfully to a colleague. The colleague mumbled something and hurried away. Weird. Maybe they were all nervous about the big meeting. He continued toward the conference room, his confidence wavering slightly but still intact. He rounded the corner and saw 2 security guards standing outside conference room A. That was unusual. Morning, he said to them. Big day, huh? The guards looked at each other. One of them stepped forward. Mr. Okafor. Yes. We need you to come with us, please. Chike's smile faltered completely. What? Why? The meeting's about to start. I need to Sir, please come with us. The guard's voice was firm now. I don't understand. What's going on? The conference room door opened. The HR director stepped out, her face grave. Chike, we need to speak with you immediately. Please follow these gentlemen to HR. But the promotion meeting has been cancelled. Come with me. Now. Chike's stomach dropped. Something was very wrong. He followed the HR director and security guards down the hallway, aware of every pair of eyes watching him. Whispers followed him like ghosts. Did you see the video? I can't believe he said that about his wife. Planning to fake a job offer? That's fraud. Who's the woman in the video? Video? What video? They entered the HR office. The CEO was there. His direct supervisor. The 3 board members. All sitting in chairs arranged in a semicircle. All staring at him with expressions ranging from disappointment to disgust. The HR director gestured to a single chair facing them. Sit. Chike sat, his hands suddenly sweaty, his heart racing. What is this about? The CEO spoke first, his voice cold. Mr. Okafor, we received some very disturbing information this morning. I don't understand. Let me show you. The CEO turned a laptop toward him. Press play on a video. And Chike's entire world collapsed in the span of 2 minutes and 47 seconds. He watched himself on screen. In the hotel room. With Amora. Saying the words he'd said. Making the plans he'd made. Revealing exactly who he was when he thought no one was watching. The blood drained from his face. His hands started shaking. His mouth went dry. When the video ended, the room was silent except for the sound of Chike's ragged breathing. The CEO spoke again. Do you have anything to say? Chike's mind raced for an explanation, an excuse, anything. That's not what it looks like. Really? His supervisor cut him off. Because it looks like you're planning to lie to this company about receiving a job offer abroad, use us to fund your relocation, and commit fraud in the process. No, I wasn't actually going to. It also looks like you're engaging in an extramarital affair and planning to abandon your wife in the cruelest way possible, the HR director added. My personal life is. Your personal life became our business the moment it demonstrated a complete lack of integrity, the CEO said sharply. If you can lie to your wife, betray someone who trusts you completely, what's to stop you from lying to us? Chike had no answer. One of the board members leaned forward. Who recorded this video? Chike's mind spun. Ooh, how? The email signature, C. Okafor. His last name. But also, Camsy's last name. God no. My wife, he whispered. The room erupted in murmurs. Your wife recorded you cheating on her and sent it to your entire leadership team? The supervisor looked almost impressed despite his anger. She must have been at the hotel. Chike's voice was barely audible. She must have. But how did she know? Why would she? The CEO stood up. Here's what's going to happen, Mr. Okafor. Effective immediately, you are terminated from this company. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. Your laptop, ID badge, and company phone will be surrendered. You will sign an NDA, and you will leave this building. Any attempt to speak to the press, to defame this company, or to retaliate will result in legal action. Do you understand? Chike couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process. Do you understand? The CEO repeated louder. Yes, Chike whispered. Good. Security, please escort him out. The 2 guards stepped forward. Wait, please. Chike found his voice, standing up desperately. Please, I've worked here for 6 years. This is my career. I made a mistake, but... You made multiple mistakes, the HR director corrected. And the consequences are permanent. Please leave with dignity. Sir, please. Chike turned to the CEO, his voice breaking. I have a wife to support, a mortgage, responsibilities. You should have thought about that before you decided to betray the person depending on you most. one of the board members said quietly. The words hit Chike like a physical blow. The guards took his arms gently but firmly. Come on, sir. Let's go. They walked him through the office in full view of every colleague he'd ever worked with. Someone had to collect items from his desk while he stood there, watched by security like a criminal. His colleagues stared. Some looked away. Some whispered. Some looked satisfied. Apparently, Chike wasn't as well liked as he'd thought. One woman, Tola from accounting, said loud enough for him to hear. Maybe now he'll know how his wife felt. The walk to the elevator lasted a lifetime. The elevator ride down felt like descending into hell. The walk through the lobby was a parade of shame. And then he was outside, standing on the sidewalk in his lucky suit, holding a small box of personal items. No job, no promotion, no career, no future. His phone buzzed. A message from Amora. His heart leaped. Maybe she'd help, maybe she'd support him, maybe. He opened the message. What the hell did you do? That video is everywhere. My company saw it. They're calling me into a meeting. This is your fault. Don't ever contact me again. We're done. Chike's legs gave out. He sat down on the curb, the box of belongings beside him, and finally, he started to cry. Not gentle tears. Ugly, gasping, devastating sobs. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and tried to call Camsy. Number blocked. He tried WhatsApp. Block. Email. Block. Every platform. Every avenue. Block. He tried calling from a colleague's phone he still had saved. It rang twice then. The number you're trying to reach cannot receive calls at this time. She'd blocked everyone. She'd cut him off completely. He whispered into the empty air. Camsy, please. Please don't do this. Need you. I'm sorry, please. But there was no one to hear him. No one to help him. No one to save him from the consequences of his own choices. Back in her hotel room, Camsy's phone buzzed with notifications. Missed calls from unknown numbers. 23. Blocked messages attempting to reach her. 47. She didn't open any of them. She simply finished her coffee, showered, packed her bags, and prepared to check out. She'd gotten the confirmation she needed from the CEO's email. It was done. Justice had been served. Now it was time to go home. Not to their home. To her future. The taxi ride to the airport felt different than the one 2 days ago. Then Camsy had been nervous, excited, full of hope and surprise. Now she was calm, quiet, and certain. The driver, a different one from before, noticed. You look peaceful, madam, he observed kindly. Good trip. Camsy looked out the window at Abuja's morning traffic and said quietly, Yes, very good trip. She didn't elaborate. Didn't explain that good meant discovering the truth. That good meant protecting herself. That good meant ending a marriage that had been dead for months, but she'd been too afraid to admit it. At the airport, she checked in efficiently, bought a bottle of water, sat in the waiting area and pulled out her phone. She had one more thing to do before boarding. She opened her contacts and scrolled to her lawyer's name, a woman named Mrs. Adeyemi who'd handled her grandmother's estate years ago. She typed, Good morning, Mrs. Adeyemi. I need to file for divorce. I have video evidence of adultery. Are you available for a consultation this week? The response came within minutes. Good morning, Camsy. Yes, I'm available. I'm sorry you're going through this. Tuesday at 2 p.m. work for you. Bring all evidence and documentation of shared assets. Perfect. Thank you. You're welcome. And Camsy, you're doing the right thing. Camsy stared at that last sentence for a long moment. Was she? Part of her, the part that had been trained to forgive, to try harder, to keep fighting, whispered that maybe she should have confronted him first. Maybe she should have given him a chance to explain. Maybe. Well. She silenced that voice immediately. He'd had 5 years of chances. Chances to appreciate her. Chances to stay faithful. Chances to treat her like she mattered. He'd wasted every single one. Now it was her turn to take a chance, on herself. The boarding call came. She stood, grabbed her carry-on, and walked toward the gate. As she stepped onto the plane, she whispered a prayer. Not for Chike, not for her marriage, but for herself. God, give me strength to walk away and never look back. The flight to Lagos was smooth. She didn't sleep this time. She sat by the window and watched clouds drift past, thinking about what came next. She'd need to stay with Nena for a while. Going back to the apartment she shared with Chike felt impossible right now. She'd need to separate their finances. Her own account, her own space, her own life. She'd need to divide assets. The apartment was in both names, bought mostly with his income but maintained with her unpaid labor. The lawyer would handle that. She'd need to rebuild. Figure out who Camsy was when she wasn't defined by being Chike's wife. That last thought was the scariest. Who was she without him? For 5 years, her entire identity had been wrapped up in being a wife. Good wife. A devoted wife. A wife who cooked and cleaned and supported and sacrificed. But who was Camsy Okafor, the individual? The question sat heavy in her chest. But beneath the fear, there was something else. Curiosity. Maybe even excitement. For the first time in 5 years, her life was completely her own. Her time. Her choices. Her future. The plane landed at Murtala Muhammad International Airport at 11:43 a.m. She collected her bag and walked through the arrivals gate. Nena was waiting for her. Camsy had texted her from Abuja asking if she could stay for a while. Nena had responded immediately. As long as you need. I'm picking you up from the airport. Don't even think about arguing. And there she was, holding a small sign that said, Freedom Party, with a supportive smile on her face. When Camsy reached her, Nena pulled her into a tight hug. Are you okay? Nena whispered. I will be, Camsy replied honestly. They didn't talk much in the car. Nena seemed to understand that Camsy needed silence more than conversation. But halfway through the drive, Nena said quietly, I saw the video. Camsy's head whipped around. What? How? It's going viral in your church group, your neighborhood association, everywhere. Someone from Chike's office shared it. Camsy felt her stomach drop. I only sent it to his company. These things never stay contained, Nena said gently. Are you upset? Camsy thought about it. Was she? She should be horrified that her private humiliation was now public knowledge. But instead she felt vindicated. No, she said finally. Let everyone know. Let them see who he really is. I'm tired of protecting his reputation while he destroyed mine. Nena reached over and squeezed her hand. That's my girl. They arrived at Nena's apartment complex, a modest but clean building in Yaba. Nena helped her carry her bags upstairs. The guest room was small but welcoming. Fresh sheets on the bed, a vase of flowers on the nightstand, towels folded neatly on the dresser. I'll let you settle in, Nena said. There's food in the kitchen whenever you're ready. No pressure to talk or explain or do anything. Just exist. Okay. Camsy nodded, throat tight with gratitude. Thank you. When Nena left and closed the door, Camsy sat on the edge of the bed and finally, let herself cry. Not the silent tears from the hotel hallway. Not the shocked numbness from the hotel room. But real deep guttural crying. The kind that comes from grief and relief mixing together. Grief for the marriage she thought she had. Relief that she'd finally escaped. She cried for 20 minutes straight, clutching a pillow to her chest, letting 5 years of ignored intuition, suppressed pain, and one-sided love pour out of her. And when she was done, she felt lighter. Dear, yes, but lighter. She wiped her face, blew her nose, and lay back on the bed. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. Buzzed again, and again, and again. Finally she checked. 67 missed calls from unknown numbers. 132 unread text messages. Her church group chat had 847 new messages. Her family group chat had 213. Everyone wanted to know. What happened? Are you okay? Is it true? We saw a video. Do you need anything? Where are you? She put the phone on silent and placed it face down on the nightstand. Not today. Today she would just breathe. Tomorrow she would start rebuilding. 3 days after the email that destroyed Chike's life, Camsy sat across from Mrs. Adeyemi in a quiet coffee shop in Victoria Island. She'd spent those 3 days mostly sleeping, eating when Nena forced her to, and avoiding her phone. But reality had to be faced eventually. Mrs. Adeyemi was a sharp woman in her mid-50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She'd watched the video once, made notes, and now sat with a folder of documents spread between them. "This is the most clear-cut case of adultery I've seen in 20 years, Mrs. Adeyemi said without preamble. "With this video evidence you'll get everything. The apartment, majority of savings, possibly even spousal support, though I know you're not interested in that." Camsy shook her head. "I don't want his money. I just want out. I understand. But legally, you're entitled to compensation for emotional distress, especially given the public nature of the humiliation and his plans to abandon you." "How long will it take?" Camsy asked. "With this evidence, 60 to 90 days for the divorce to be finalized. In the meantime, I'll file a restraining order if needed." "He's been trying to contact me," Camsy interrupted. "Different numbers, email addresses, even showed up at Nena's building yesterday." Mrs. Adeyemi's expression hardened. "What did he say?" "I didn't talk to him. Nena told him to leave or she'd call the police. He left but he looked destroyed." "Good," Mrs. Adeyemi said firmly. "He should be destroyed. He destroyed you first. The difference is you're rebuilding. He's just facing consequences." Camsy looked down at her coffee. "Part of me feels guilty. Like maybe I went too far." "Stop." Mrs. Adeyemi's voice cut through the thought like a knife. "That's your conditioning talking. You were trained to protect him, to sacrifice yourself, to take responsibility for his emotions. But Camsy, you didn't send that video out of cruelty. You sent it out of self-preservation. You sent it because if you hadn't, he would have left you blindsided, broke, and blamed." Camsy's eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted him to love me." "I know, sweetheart. But some people aren't capable of loving anyone but themselves. And staying with them doesn't make them love you more. It just makes you love yourself less." Those words settled into Camsy's chest like truth finally finding a home. Mrs. Adeyemi continued. "I'll file the divorce papers today. He'll be served within 48 hours. Expect him to try to fight it initially, they always do. But with this evidence, he has no grounds. The court will favor you completely." "What about Amora?" Camsy asked. "Can I sue her? For alienation of affection?" "Possibly, but it's difficult to prove and emotionally draining. My advice: let karma handle her. From what I've heard, she lost her job too and her reputation is ruined. That's punishment enough." Camsy nodded slowly. They finished their meeting, signed documents, and agreed to touch base in 1 week. As Camsy left the coffee shop, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Hello, Camsy." "Oh God, Camsy, thank God you answered." Chike's voice hit her like a physical blow. She should hang up. She should block the number. But something in her needed to hear what he'd say. "What do you want, Chike?" "I want to explain. I want to apologize. I want to, please can we meet? Just talk." "No. Please, Camsy. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future, everything is gone. I need you to understand." "Understand what?" Her voice was cold now. "That you cheated on me with my friend. That you planned to abandon me. That you called me soft and boring. I understand perfectly, Chike. I understand that the man I married never existed. That's not true. I love you, I always loved you. You don't love me. You loved what I did for you. There's a difference." Silence on the other end. Then quietly. "I made a mistake. Horrible mistake. But people make mistakes, Camsy. Don't I deserve forgiveness?" Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation, Chike. I can forgive you eventually. For my own peace, not yours. But I will never take you back. Never. Why? Because I hurt you. Because you showed me exactly who you are when you think no one's watching. And I believe you. Camsy, please. You said I was too soft to fight back. You were wrong. I'm not fighting you, Chike. I'm leaving you. There's a difference. Fighting you would mean I still care. Leaving you means I finally care about myself more. I'll change. I swear I'll change. I'll go to counseling, I'll do whatever it takes. You should have changed while we were married. You should have appreciated me while I was there. You should have been faithful when you made a vow. But you didn't. And now it's too late. It's never too late. We can. It's too late the moment you stopped valuing me. It's too late the moment you laughed about leaving me. It's too late the moment you chose someone else. And it's definitely too late the moment you realized you'd lost me. She heard him start to cry on the other end. Real desperate crying. A month ago that sound would have broken her. Would have made her want to comfort him, fix him, save him. Now it just made her tired. Goodbye, Chike. Don't contact me again. Your lawyer will receive the divorce papers tomorrow. Camsy, wait. She hung up, blocked the number, and walked to her car without looking back. Her hands were shaking, not from fear or sadness, but from adrenaline. She'd done it. She'd faced him and held her ground. She'd chosen herself. For the first time in 5 years, she'd put herself first. And it felt terrifying and empowering and absolutely right. 6 months after the video that changed everything, Camsy Okafor sat in her new apartment, a small one-bedroom in Ikoyi that was entirely hers. The divorce had been finalized 3 months earlier. As Mrs. Adeyemi predicted, Chike tried to fight it initially. He hired a lawyer, contested the terms, demanded mediation. But the video was undeniable. The court granted Camsy the apartment they'd shared, which she promptly sold, refusing to live surrounded by memories of a lie. She got 70% of their joint savings. She got her freedom. And Chike got exactly what he deserved. Nothing but consequences. In those 6 months, Camsy had transformed in ways she never imagined possible. She started therapy. Real therapy with a professional who helped her understand that her worth wasn't tied to how much she could give someone else. She launched her own graphic design business. Something she'd wanted to do for years but Chike had always dismissed as not practical. Within 3 months, she had 6 regular clients and a waiting list. She reconnected with old friends she'd neglected while trying to be the perfect wife. She took a solo trip to Zanzibar, her first vacation alone ever, and discovered she actually enjoyed her own company. She learned to cook for herself without the pressure of making someone else happy. She learned to sleep in the middle of the bed. She learned to make decisions without asking permission. She learned that being soft wasn't a weakness. It was a strength she'd been giving to the wrong person. And slowly, carefully, she learned to trust again. Not trust men, that would come later if ever. But trust herself. Trust her intuition. Trust that voice inside her that whispered warnings she'd spent years ignoring. On this particular evening, she was meeting Nena for dinner at a new restaurant in Lekki. As she got ready, she looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. The woman staring back was different than the one who'd stood in a hotel hallway 6 months ago. She was thinner. Stress and heartbreak had a way of stealing appetite. But she was also stronger. There was light in her eyes that hadn't been there before. There was confidence in her posture. There was peace in her expression. She whispered to her reflection, "Look at you. You survived." At the restaurant, Nena was already waiting, a bottle of wine on the table. "To freedom," Nena toasted when Camsy arrived. "To freedom," Camsy echoed, clinking glasses. They ate, laughed, caught up on life. Nena was dating someone new and glowing with happiness. Camsy was genuinely happy for her friend. No jealousy, no bitterness, just pure joy for someone she loved. Toward the end of dinner, Nena asked the question Camsy had been waiting for. "So, have you heard anything about Chike?" Camsy had made a rule. She didn't ask about him, didn't stalk his social media, didn't engage with people who tried to give her updates. But she was human. She was curious. No, you. Nena hesitated. I heard some things through the grapevine. You sure you want to know? Yes. He's still unemployed. No company will touch him after that video went viral. He's living with his mother. Amora completely cut him off. Apparently she's engaged to someone else now. Camsy absorbed this information. She waited for the satisfaction, the vindication, the he got what he deserved feeling. But all she felt was nothing. Not indifference exactly. More like closure. I hope he learns from this, she said quietly. I hope he becomes a better person. Not for me, but for whoever he's with next. Nena looked at her with something like awe. That's very mature of you. Not mature. Just healed. Or healing at least. There's a difference between wanting someone to suffer and just not wanting to be part of their story anymore. So what's next for you? Nena asked. Camsy thought about it. I don't know, she admitted. And that used to terrify me. But now it feels exciting. My life is mine. My choices are mine. My future is mine. Whatever comes next, it'll be because I chose it, not because someone expected it from me. They finished dinner, paid the bill, and walked to the parking lot together. As Camsy got into her car, a small used Honda she'd bought herself with her design business income, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something told her to. Hello. Camsy. A man's voice, but not Chike's. Yes. Who is this? My name is David. I'm a producer for a women's empowerment podcast. I saw your story online and wanted to ask if you'd be interested in sharing your experience. We're doing a series on women who chose themselves after betrayal. Camsy's first instinct was to say no, to keep her story private, to protect herself. But then she thought about all the women still sitting in hotel hallways, still making excuses for men who didn't deserve them, still believing they were too soft to fight back. Yes, she said. I'll do it. Because her story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about transformation. It was about a woman who was told she was too soft and proved that softness could be reshaped into strength. It was about choosing yourself when everyone expects you to choose someone else. And if sharing that story helped even one woman find the courage to leave, to protect herself, to value herself, then every moment of pain had been worth it. She drove home that night with the windows down, music playing, the Lagos night air warm on her face. And for the first time in 5 years she felt completely, utterly, genuinely happy. Not because a man loved her. Not because she was someone's wife. But because she was Camsy Okafor. Designer. Survivor. Free woman. And that was more than enough. So what can we learn from Camsy's story? Because this isn't just a story about betrayal and revenge. It's a story about self-worth. It's a story about the moment you stop asking, what did I do wrong? And start asking, what do I deserve? Then, before we go, we will like you to hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. What would you have done in Camsy's situation? And finally, was Camsy justified in sending that email?